What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Sheehan Show here on Sherdog.com. My name is Sean Sheehan, and I am back with another edition of the PFL Preview Show as we take a look ahead to the fifth PFL show of the 2023 regular season this week. The as I like to call them, it's actually kind of changed since last year, but the heavyweight men and the heavyweight women, I like to call them, because it's the heaviest division this year anyway. Last year it was 155, this year it's 145. But anyway, and I've said this on the show before, and I've said it in other shows, I'd love if the women's divisions were changed. Like, give us like whatever it is, 5 divisions. Give us like, you know, heavyweight, middleweight, lightweight, bantamweight, whatever it might be. I don't know. Maybe it's just me, but I think it'd be imagine if the heavyweight champion of the world was Larissa, Pacheco, whoever it might be. Anyway, I leave that debate for another day. It's only the bells and whistles, as Dana White calls them, anyway. But what we have here today is a preview for some very important fights. You know, we talked last week about obviously the rough and tumble that the PFL season has experienced so far, with all obviously the drug test failures leading to changes, leading to this, that, and the other. You know, new matchups. You know, having to I suppose reshape the seasons in the way that they have done in terms of putting new people into the tournament and all that. It's been very, very tough, and you know, it's interesting how last week's card worked out, because you still you know, had a lot of, I suppose, the names we know and the names you'd expect get through. Obviously, Renan took a big loss in the finale, but that, in the main event. But that can happen. You know, that absolutely can happen. It could happen to. Look what happened to Kayla Harrison last year in the finale, you know, so it can definitely happen. That's what the tournament style is about, and I think that's honestly why people like it. But these two divisions aren't as affected as what we had last week. Obviously, Capelloza is out, and he was, to me, maybe the along with Ante Delija, I think probably the best heavyweight they have. But there are some fun matchups coming in here and all of that in this, so I think PFL will be happy to get this show done and the one coming up next week, and then I suppose move forward into the playoffs and the finale. Because, like, to be fair, the finale night in PFL is one of the best nights of the year in mixed martial arts. And do you know what I would love as well, right? I was watching the light heavyweights the last week, and like, obviously a lot of the champion from last year, Thiago Santos, and a few more went out of the light heavyweight tournament after the test failures. I was kind of thinking, like, there's someone here who is a pretty unheralded light heavyweight, or someone say like a Martin Hamlet, who's been around for a good few years in PFL now and hasn't been, you know, successful in terms of at the very top level. And one of them people is going to win $1 million, you know? $1 million they're going to win it. Like, it's hard to sniff at that. And like, what is it, 5 or 6 divisions at the end of the year, everyone coming home with $1 million, all of the winners. That's absolutely brilliant. And you know, it's easy to snigger at that, like, but I don't think we should be. And it's great what the PFL are doing in terms of that, and with Bellator do their tournaments too, it's great as well. So I'm all for fighters getting paid highly, and that seemingly is what the PFL are doing at the very top level. Anyway, at the bottom level, maybe it's a little bit different, as it is everywhere. But it's great that, you know, you'll be watching someone who's going to get that, and they're fighting for that, and it's I suppose it's great. It's great to have that in mixed martial arts, and for someone to be on that trajectory. So yeah, let's get into the card itself. Let's look at the standings first of all, and I'll just run you through what we have: the 10 fighters at heavyweight, and the 10 at the women's featherweight division as well. So let's start off with the women's featherweight division. What we have at the moment: Amanda Leibrock is leading the way. She's 1-0 with 6 points. Marina Mokhnatkina also 1-0 with 5 points. Then we have in third and fourth place respectively the two Brazilians, Larissa, Pacheco and Evelyn Martins, both with 3 points, both 1-0. Just outside of the playoff places then, Olena Kolesnik with 2 points, who is also 1-0, and we have the other 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fighters then obviously are all 0-1. Aspen lad, Karolina Sobek, Julia Budd, Yoko Higashi and Martina Jindrova. Actually, I was watching a Martina Jindrova fight, and it was, she's from Czech Republic. I think it was in the Czech Republic, and they said her name. It wasn't Jindrova anyway. Like Jindrova. Like I cannot pronounce it like that, but Jindrova, something like that. It was like completely different to what I might say Jindrova. So we'll take the Irish and Czech together. we might get a good pronunciation in there somewhere. Let's look at the heavyweight division. As I said, all but the bottom 3 fighters have had a fight so far. We have the top 3 winners, and from 4 to 7 are all 0-1. So leading the way, Denis Goltsov, the former champion, 6 points, 1-0. Number 2 is Maurice Greene, 1-0 with 5 points, and then Danilo Marques, who is also 1-0 with 3 points. The 2 fighters after that have also been awarded 3 points, though. That is Ferreira and Matheus Scheffel, who are both 1-0. Yorgan Castro, both 0-1. Yorgan Castro and Marcelo Nunes also 0-1 with 0 points. And then Brady, Ante, Delija, who had his fight cancelled last time, who many, including myself, thought was probably favoured coming in. He's 0-0, as well as Jordan Hederman, who's a 10th year 0-0, so who's coming in newly, obviously, to the tournament here. So I suppose starting at that main event, Ante Delija versus Maurice Greene is a massive fight, because Greene is on 5 points, second place, and Ante Delija has yet to score a point, so needs to come in here and probably get a big win. Now, I like to concentrate more on the fights than I do on the table and stuff, because I think the PFL do a great job of explaining that on the night. It's very hard to keep it on top of in a preview or beforehand. So, but I'll try a little bit here, I suppose. But on the fight itself, I think I think it's a very interesting fight, because for a couple of reasons. I talked about it in my top 5 fights for the month, that Ante Delija or Maurice Greene or Goltsov or whoever it might be, whoever's the winner of this £1 million, not only wins £1 million, they also win the place to be, let's call it the number 1 contender to be Francis Ngannou's fight, right? Now, that doesn't necessarily mean they'll get it. If someone was to fall out of the UFC, if someone was to appear out of nowhere, or not fall out of the UFC, but their contract, let's say Tom Aspinall was out of contract, let's say Curtis Blades was out of contract, or someone like that, could they come over and fight Francis in PFL in a big money matchup or something? You could see that. But what if that doesn't happen? Francis has said it, and others have said it as well. The person they want to look at is the champion in the heavyweight division coming up. So this is a massive time for the 10 guys I mentioned there. It's open up to every single one of them. Even the guys with 0 points, if they get big first round knockouts and the other results obviously go their way, they can get through and they can be on that road to the million and the 2 million that Francis has guaranteed for everyone fighting him. So really, and I that's a little bit facetious there maybe, but if you think about it, really, if that, let's say that does happen, it's not massively beyond the realms of possibility that the winner does fight Francis. It then doesn't go from it goes from a $1 million tournament quickly to a $3 million tournament, and that is a massive thing. Literally, if the winner of this tournament could retire after the Ngannou fight, better yet, they could beat him and they could be a massive star to themselves as well. It's this tournament. This is the biggest tournament. If you really think about it like that, this is the biggest tournament the PFL has ever had. It's the most important tournament the PFL has ever done, and it is filled with a lot of lads, I suppose, who maybe a lot of people don't know. Right, so maybe we could change that a little bit here in the preview, but I actually think Ante Delija is a really, really, really good fighter. I saw some people talking about him. Obviously, he won last year, and there was people talking about him on their shows, and they can't even pronounce his name and everything like that. And it's mad, because we're talking about Francis going to PFL, and then people don't even know who's fighting in PFL, and I just think it's an awful, crazy situation to be, but. A very, very, very good fighter. He's won his last 4 in a row, and won 2 before that as well. He's only lost to Bruno Capelloza in all his fights since 2015. He was Tibura. He lost to back then. He took a 3-year break. after that, and obviously came back and was in the PFL starting in 2019 in the regular season. And like since that 2019 regular season, it's been Capoloza twice. Like he's beaten Goltsov, the guy who was very hard to beat. He's beaten Scheffel. He's beaten Renan Ferreira. Scheffel a couple of times. And I think he proved last year how good he is. Like, if he'd met Capoloza again, could he have won the fight? Like, he knocked him out the first time, Capoloza. It was a decision the second time. Capoloza obviously lost last year as well to Scheffel. As I said, if they'd met again, Capoloza was in the playoffs, but he got injured and he was out, and he ended up, Scheffel obviously got to the final, ended up fighting there, and he ended up winning it, the Delija. It could have really changed his trajectory as a fight. It's similar to what Pacheco did, who we'll be talking about later on. Obviously she lost multiple times to the former champ there, obviously Harrison, Kayla Harrison, whose name I could inexplicably not remember there for like 10 seconds. Didn't beat her last time and just changed her whole career because of that, and changed the way people talk about her. The same could have been said for Delija if that had happened, but I think it did anyway. From people watching that, from me who covered all the cards and previewed them and reviewed all of them, I think he has become one of the top heavyweights in the world, no doubt about it. Like if he was in the UFC, I think he would be a top 15 UFC heavyweight, no problem, as I think would Capoloza, and there's a few more guys as well who would be right there or thereabouts, maybe climbing the ranks, and maybe, Renan Ferreira, I think, probably would be the most specific one, but I think Delija is a very, very good fighter, and they should be talking about him as that very good fighter. They should be building him up, possibly to be like. The problem is as well, the fact he didn't get that last fight. It's going to take something big here. It's going to take something big to actually even qualify for the next round, and that's the problem and beauty with the PFL, I suppose. But he's fighting Maurice Greene here, who is, not the best heavyweight in the PFL. Obviously, we know him from a few fights in the UFC. Lost to, I suppose, most famously to Greg Hardy, got knocked out in the second round there. Came into the PFL last year, lost to Denis Goltsov, fought this year as well, beat Marcelo Nunes, knocked him out in a bit of a shock, I think, to a lot of people, but that shows you what he can do, I suppose. He's a very good fighter if you allow him to be a very good fighter, but when you don't allow him to be a very good fighter, he's beatable. And I think, if you like, people come here probably for my picks sometimes, I will pick Ante Delija as my pick here, because I think he is the superior fighter. I think he's a better, well-rounded fighter. If you look at the betting odds, they would reflect that as well. He's minus 450, Maurice Greene plus 300, and I think that basically says it all about this matchup. I think he's a very good wrestler. Like you look at him and you look at the country he comes from, I suppose, Croatia, and you'll think, okay, maybe he's going to be a kickboxer, but he is a kickboxer. He can kickbox, but he's a very, very good wrestler. I don't think he'll want to be standing with Maurice Greene. I think he could beat him standing, and if they do stand, I would pick Delija to win that fight, but I do think he will take him down. I do think he'll beat him up on the ground, and I do think he'll win the fight in that fashion. He has, he's a good few submissions on his record, but, when he does take the odds down, there's a lot of ground and pound, a lot of TKO via punches type of wins on his record as well, and that's kind of what I foresee here in this one. But as I said, it's almost more important than this fight itself. Now, this is a massive fight itself, because I think he has to win it in spectacular, not necessarily spectacular fashion, but quick order, maybe, to get to the next round. But once he does that, I think, PFL and everyone needs to start talking about it. And I suppose it makes sense maybe to not be blowing that up right now, because of the fact he's only had one fight and he mightn't be able to get through. But when he does get through, when the four people get through, I suppose, and it's not just him, but he's the one I would pick out, but one of the four need to be blown up as the next guy to face Francis Ngannou. But yeah, my pick for that one is definitely Ante Delija. Let's, as I always do, let's go back and forth in the divisions. The next matchup, the co-main event, Larissa Pacheco versus Amanda Leibrock. The betting in that one is plus 450 for Leibrock, minus 800 for Pacheco. If you're to give me a betting pick on it, I'd pick Leibrock. If you're to give me a pick on it, I'd pick Pacheco. I think that line is wide, to be honest. I do think Pacheco will win the fight. I'd probably have her at plus 300, maybe plus 250. Leibrock, I should say. Anyone who watched my first preview and watched the fight with Leibrock, I think would probably know that the ability she has, even at 35 years of age, which is the same age as myself, she's shoving on a little bit, was shown for the first time, I suppose, in an opportunity like this. You know, she, now, not to say she beat Gina Harding before in Bellator, but she lost 3 fights in a row in Bellator. She did do a good job when she got into Invicta, but she only had 1 fight back in Invicta after, obviously, her early days, lost to Megan Anderson and things like that. But she has really good ability on the feet. She's a very good striker. And when she head kicked Jindrova, I wasn't one bit surprised. And I don't think many people were. Now, again, probably a little bit of an underdog coming into that fight. But I don't think it was that massive of a surprise. And would it be that massive a surprise if she beat Pacheco here? I think to most people, yeah, it probably would be. Would it be to me? It wouldn't. Honestly, it wouldn't. If I decide to watch this the next morning, I wake up and I accidentally see the results and I see Leibrock win by a head kick KO or something like that, I wouldn't be that shocked, to be honest. I would not be that shocked. But I do believe in Pacheco's ability. The one thing I must say with Pacheco, though, and I voiced this at the start of the season too, and I think we saw it a little bit in her fight against Julia, but that was a relatively close fight. The move down to 45 from 55, you would, like, logically you would probably think, well, Shani, what are you talking about? You know, she basically struggled to get up to 155. She was only fighting there because of Kayla Harrison and all this. But I truly believe that she beat Kayla Harrison because she became a real 155er. And she spent years with the name, you know, on the dartboard or above her bed or on, you know, the face on the boxing bag or whatever. Kayla Harrison, and she did everything she could to get there. She got there, and look, there's the two sides of that. There's the mental side, but I also think the weight makes a big difference. Now she's gone back down 10 pounds when the struggle was to get up 10 pounds for years. She did that. She was successful at it, and then she's to turn around and kind of do the opposite. Now, maybe I'm blown out of proportion, right? Maybe that one fight will stand her, and maybe she'll be better this time. But I still think it might be a bit of a slight issue coming in here. Look, if you were to ask me to break down this fight and how I think it will go, I think Pacheco will strike her for a while. I think Leibrock will cause her problems. I think Pacheco then will try to take her down, or conversely will try to give her very little room. Very little room. We talked about, look at Charles Oliveira versus Beneil Dariush last week type of thing. Just maybe not as madly going forward as that, but don't give her room. She's at best when she has the ability to jab as Leibrock, the ability to head kick, the ability to leg kick. Don't give her the room to get those kicks off. Be there, break her rhythm, get inside, whether it's a takedown or whether it's pressure, whether it's with the clinch. You have to do that to her. Look, Pacheco has shown many times she has the ability to do that. She's a very good chin. She has it all, really. She's a very, very good fighter, an underrated fighter. And look, she was playing second fiddle for a long time to Kayla Harrison, but she beat her fair and square. She really did. She outfought her. Kayla Harrison didn't necessarily fight that badly. She just came up against another very, very good fighter, and that's exactly what Pacheco is. I think Leibrock is a very good fighter as well, but the word I would use maybe is levels. I think maybe Pacheco is just a slight level above her, and that's no disrespect to Leibrock. I have a lot of time for her. I really do think she is a good fighter. But yeah, I think she'll win there. Another fight in the middle of this then, Biaggio Ali Walsh, the grandson, I believe, of Muhammad Ali, is having another showcase fight here against Travell Miller. So I'm sure people will be happy to come in and see that for a bit of fun in the middle. Then we have Aspen Lad against Karolina. Sobek, both on 0 points after losing their first fights of the season. The betting lines for that look Maybe not as close as I thought. Minus 225 for Ladd and plus 136 for Sobek. Just to mention as well, Ali Walsh is minus 549. His opponent's plus 350 as well, so he's obviously a big favourite there. Look, this Ladd Sobek fight, I'll be honest with you, it's not the fight I'm most looking forward to on the card. Aspen Ladd is one of those fighters who had a good reputation. People thought she might go to the next level, but she'd unfortunately lost, I suppose, against their enemy. I think she was outfought by Dumont and Pennington. And Alina Olenek beat her last time out. Now, Alina Kolesnik. If you've listened to my previews of the last few years, Kolesnik is a relatively good fighter, but she shouldn't. If you're at that level, with all due respect, you should not be losing to Elena Kolesnik. Sobek, on the other hand, then, she's only 5 fights in. As I said, it was her fight actually I watched with Jindrova. She beat her, and she beat her how she beats everyone, and that's with the scarfold. She is known for it. She takes them down, pushes them against the cage, and does it. She wasn't able to do it to Evelyn Martin's last time out. She lost the unanimous decision there. Does she have the best striking in the world? Probably not, but she's strong. She's I don't see her age here on Sherdog, but I think she's young, and she can kind of, once she gets on top, she is very good, very, very, very good. If you're Aspen Ladd here and you're her coach, you're probably telling her, stay away from that position. If you want to strike with her, strike with her. If you want to take her down and stay on top, stay on top. Do not get to the bottom. Do not get to, I wouldn't even go to side control with her, just in case she's able to turn her or something like that. Stay very, very safe on the ground. Stay very safe on the ground. Do not let her get into that position, and you should be safe. But can you trust Ladd 100% to do that? I'm not too sure. I think in this fight you probably can, and I'd probably pick Ladd. But when I get to the betting show, maybe that'll be different. Although I do think this is one to kind of avoid. Hard to know. With 5 fights in, I've watched, maybe at this stage all 5 of those fights, but at least 2 or 3 of them anyway. Still, she hasn't fought that much. Her first 2 fights win 3 rounds. Her last fight win 3 rounds as well against Martins, which Martins won unanimously, and the rest were quick fights. But yeah, I'll go for Ladd, but not with great gusto, if you wanna put it that way. Very interesting fight, a fight that I like a lot. Renan Ferreira against Matheus Scheffel. Ferreira on 3 points, Scheffel on 3 points. Ferreira's been a mainstay in this division for a couple of years now. Obviously came over from LFA, and he's beaten the likes of Jamel Jones, Stuart Austin and stuff. Now he has had, I suppose, a couple of tough losses after looking so good. Lost Ante Delija at the semi-final stage of last year, if I'm not mistaken, and then lost to Kiniev at the start of this year. But we know what happened there. That loss will probably be overturned in good time, but maybe not. I suppose we'll see on that one. But I think this is an interesting fight for a couple of reasons, and I think the biggest reason is to see what Matheus Scheffel looks like, because he is a guy, and let's just quickly look at the odds before we get into all of that. Plus 200 for Scheffel, minus 275 for Ferreira. Right. That should be wider in favour of Ferreira, because Scheffel, when he looks... Okay, some people are good fighters and they fight badly the odd time. Not to say Scheffel is a bad fighter, but I think it's more the odd time he fights well. Now, maybe that's a bit harsh, and I feel bad even saying that, but it's kind of the truth. It's kind of the truth, to be fair. He lost Ante Delija last year. He got hit, and I've never seen someone get hit the way he got hit before. And he kind of just like, wait, after getting hit and then kind of fell down and got hit again. Now that can happen. That absolutely can happen. Lost Ante later in the year. But then he beat Bruno Capelloza. Like, I was full sure going into that Bruno Capelloza would knock him out in a round. Like, absolutely and utterly full sure. Then he went out and he knocked out Juan Adams. And then he lost, obviously, to Delija again. Before losing to Capelloza at the start of this year, as that's already been overturned to a no contest. Look, I'll say to you, and I'll be very real on this one. I expect Renan Ferreira to knock out Scheffel. Right? I think Ferreira does usually do it early in fights. Go forward, land your hard leg kicks, land your big head kicks, and knock him out. It's as simple as that. If you what Scheffel is good at when he's good is getting into a rhythm. He'll jab you, he'll throw his combos. He when he gets to the rhythm, he'll be defensively good. He's not defensively good until he gets to the rhythm. You can't let him get to the rhythm. You have to knock him out early. But that's what I think Ferreira will do, and we'll see. We'll see on it. I suppose we'll see on it. Another big matchup at heavyweight. Yorgan de Castro is fighting Denis Goltsov, who is obviously leading the way on 6 points coming in here. And I don't need, lads, to give ye much of a breakdown of this fight. Goltsov is going to win almost 100%, certainly. Let me look at the odds here. I minus 649 plus 400 for the Castro. I think that's too close. I really do. I think he should be minus 1,000 minimum. Maybe because it's a heavyweight fight and the Castro can knock people out. This is going to be an easy win, I think. I really do. I think Goltsov is going to take him down. He's just going to beat him up on the ground. And it's, he's 10 submissions, 14 knockouts in his 30 wins. He's going to finish him, right? And we'll obviously, in the betting show, we'll get more into that, I suppose. And we'll talk about that. But almost certainly, there should be no real matchup there. One matchup, though, which I think will be good is Marina Mokhnatkina against Evelyn Martins. Mokhnatkina is second with 5 points. Martins is 4 with 3 points. So number 2 faces number 4. Number 1 faces number 3 in the standings, which is absolutely great here. Again, another one which I'm not 100% sure of the winner of yet, if I'm being honest. You look at the betting for this one, it's minus 150 for Martins, plus 110 for Mokhnatkina, which kind of goes along. I'm glad they go along the same lines as I do on that one. I think what you would give to Mokhnatkina is she has a lot of experience now in her, what is it, 12 fights. She's been in there with Kell Harrison. She's been in there with Janae Harding. She's been in there with Abigail Montez and beat her last year. She's won her last 3 fights in a row, including beating Higashi at the start of this year. Won her last 2 fights inside the distance. If you haven't seen her, she'd probably be the best judoka in the PFL if Kell Harrison hadn't been around for a while. She's 5 wins by submission, 1 by knockout. And I think she will be gone in there trying to take down Evelyn Martins, who, herself has a win by submission, but she's only 20 years of age. Not very experienced, only made her debut in 2020. Had 2 years off in the middle of that as well, but does look like a very good fighter. Fighting on of MMA Masters, they're always very good as well. So I honestly, maybe I'll go with Martins here. Maybe I'll go with Martins. Maybe the pick here. Maybe she can stay away from Mokhnatkina, use her jab and stay around. And as well, when a fighter's this young, you don't know what type of improvements they're going to make between fights. And when let's say as well, she's preparing for a judoka here. Maybe with a fine tooth comb and go back to her old fights and maybe pair with someone probably call me out in that, but she's probably not faced someone specifically like that before. I know she fought Serena de Jesus in her first fight, who's a very, very good fighter. If you haven't seen her as well, check her out. But the point is, the improvements she could have made between fights could be absolutely massive. That's definitely one to keep an eye on as well. Let's run through the rest of the fights. Danilo Marques versus Marcelo Nunes. I think that one is going to hit the ground. And I think it's going to be a relatively close fight. Minus 188 for Marques, plus 140 for Nunes. So the odds suggest that one as well. I think I'll just about go for Marques in that one. He won his first fight. Nunes lost his first fight. Like, if he wins that, he's going to be through. So it's a big fight for him, And as I said, the 3 million on the line, so a massive fight for him there. Julia Budd against Martina Jindrova. Then this again is a very, very big fight. Budd on 0 points. She's not had a great time of it. She came over. Jindrova as well. Also on 0 points. The betting for this looks like this. Budd is the favourite, minus 163. Jindrova plus 120. I feel like I picked Julia Budd too much. I really do. I gave her as my flyer to beat Pacheco, and she almost did. That was a close fight, but now she's lost 3 in a row. But it is the lad fight was close as well, split decision. The Fabian fight in PFL to make her PFL debut before she got into the seasons. It was in the season, but she got injured after it, I'm pretty sure, if memory serves me correct. Sorry, the Caitlin Young fight was the pre-fight. She won that, but that was a close fight as well. Every fight seems to be a close fight. I will pick her here. If this was a couple of years ago, I think the line would have been a lot bigger. But the problem for Julia Budd is she's 40 years of age in a couple of weeks. And time waits for no one. And honestly, I kind of think that's what's happening here. Will Jindrova be good enough to take advantage of that? Maybe, but I'm gonna stick with Budd for my pick in that one. We have, I suppose, the last women's featherweight fight in the aforementioned Yoko Higashi and Alina Kolesnik. I think I'm going to go for Kolesnik in that one. She's a big favourite, minus 549, plus 350. I just think size, strength, wrestling will be too much for Higashi in that one, and I think it's pretty easy pick on that one. The Jordan Hederman, Patrick Brady fight, plus 240 for Brady, minus 350 for Jordan Hederman. I'll be honest, I haven't seen too much of Jordan. He's 6-0. Had a few fights in LFA, knocked or submitted a few lads. He's 3 submissions on his record and 1 knockout. He looks a big unit, and I saw a couple of his highlights, and I think he might be a tough one for Patrick Brady. Like, Patrick Brady is a fighter I talked about from my last preview. Didn't get a chance yet to see him. To see him compete, or did we? Hold on, let me check. Maybe I'm gone mad. We didn't, yeah. And he's a guy who's 39 years of age with 5 fights, and I think that tells you maybe the story. He just looks a bit wet behind the ears, and it'll be hard for him to get any experience. Hederman's 31 in at the other side of it, and you think that'll see him through, and I think he'll probably end up winning that one. So, there's Denzel Freeman as well. That's not a tournament fight, but he's fighting Isaiah Pinson, minus 250 for Freeman, plus 175 for Isaiah Pinson. And I suppose we'll see who wins that one. I'll go for the 4-0 Freeman in that one. So yeah, that's the preview. And I think it'll be a pretty good card, to be honest. Will I run through my picks once more? Because people always give out to me for having my picks in the middle. I'm going to go for Delija. I'm going to go for Pacheco. I'm going for Biaggio Walsh. Biaggio Ali Walsh, I should probably throw in there. I'm going to go for Aspen, lad. Definitely go for Ferreira and Goltsov. I picked Martins to beat Mokhnatkina. Will I change my? I go for Marques against Nunes. I'm going to go for Budd, Kolesnik, Heiderman, and Freeman. So yeah, those are my picks for PFL. Let me know your picks. Comment section below. Let me know your pick and let me know your best bet for the week. And it's another good night of PFL fights this Friday night, the 16th of June, available on ESPN Plus over in the States, the Zone here in Ireland, and check your local listings everywhere else, I suppose, to find it. And PFL, their website is very good as well for the standings and all of that stuff. So I will leave it there. Thank you to everybody for tuning in. I appreciate the support all year for these previews. We'll have another one next year. Next week. We'll also have the PFL Europe previews coming up. That's in 3 weeks' time, I think. It's coming up anyway pretty soon. And then we'll be back for obviously the playoffs and the finale as well. So a lot of good stuff going on with PFL and Sherdog here. So I appreciate everyone tuning in for it. And please stay tuned for more. Right, I'll leave it there, everyone. Thank you very much. My name is Sean Sheehan for Sherdog.com. We'll see you all next time.